The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering against my desk while Marcus's voice echoed through the speaker, dripping with self-satisfaction. He believed he had orchestrated the ultimate betrayal. I am Diana Chun, and my husband had just transferred ownership of my family's cherished beach house to his 26-year-old mistress, a decision that felt like a jagged knife twisting in my heart. "You're too quiet," Marcus remarked, his smugness palpable. "No tears, no pleas. For mercy. I expected more drama from you," Diana. Taking a deep breath, I steadied myself against the onslaught of emotions. The house was my inheritance, Marcus. My grandfather built it, and now it's in the hands of someone who truly appreciates it. When did you last visit? You're too preoccupied with your consulting work to enjoy anything. The irony in his words almost made me chuckle. My consulting work, dismissed by him as a hobby, had been the very means through which I systematically acquired shares in his company over the past year. "You're right," I replied, maintaining my composure. "I've been quite busy. In fact, I have a shareholders meeting to prepare for tomorrow." His tone shifted, sharpening with disbelief. "Shareholders meeting? What are you talking about?" "Oh, didn't you know? I'm attending Parker Industries' annual meeting. See you there, darling." I hung up, savoring the moment. Marcus had always underestimated me, viewing me as merely a convenient corporate spouse who looked good at his side. He never bothered to learn about my professional life, the one I had painstakingly built for myself. When we first met 5 years ago, I was already a successful business consultant, specializing in corporate restructuring, but Marcus, riding high as CEO of his family's company, only saw a beautiful woman impressed by a success I should have recognized the warning signs the way Bell my career. His constant need to assert his importance and how he frequently interrupted me during meetings to explain concepts I already understood, yet I had been blinded by what I believe was love. The beach house incident 6 months prior had been my awakening. I overheard him on the phone with Sarah, the much younger VP of marketing, discussing romantic getaways at my grandfather's house, the very place where I spent every summer, where my parents married, and where I learned to swim and surf. That moment propelled me to scrutinize Parker Industries' financials. What I discovered was alarming, questionable accounting practices, inflated projections, and a board of directors too loyal to Marcus's family name to challenge anything. While he was busy romancing Sarah at my family's beach house, I was meeting with institutional investors, highlighting discrepancies in the company's reports and suggesting that new leadership was necessary. I picked up my phone and called my attorney, Relly Kim. He did it, stated when she answered. He actually transferred the beach house to her. Michelle's typing echoed in the background. "Perfect. That's the last piece. We needed the property. Transferred documents have already been flagged for the SEC investigation." "How did he sound?" inquired, seeking reassurance. "Smug. He still has no idea about tomorrow." None of them. Dora Shelley confirmed that the shareholders were ready, and the board members who had flipped sides were keeping quiet. Everything was in place as I gazed out my window at the city skyline. The imposing Parker Industries building loomed over the view. Marcus had selected our penthouse apartment for this very vista, relishing in the notion that his family's legacy powered over everything else. "What about the other documentation?" I asked, wanting assurance of the evidence against him already. "To go, we have records of every business trip they took together, every gift he bought her with company funds, including the recent renovations to your beach house. By the way, we'll be getting that back. The transfer won't hold up in court, especially with the timing of the SEC investigation." I smiled, recalling how Mark had laughed at my meticulous record-keeping, dismissing it as a quirk. "A good consultant is only as valuable as their documentation," I once told him. He brushed it off as another one of my eccentricities. "One more thing," Michelle added. "Sarah sold her shares yesterday. Just like you predicted, she dumped everything as soon as Marcus gave her the beach house." "Of course she did," I replied. "Marcus never understood that loyalty couldn't be purchased, but disloyalty often came with a hefty price tag." As I opened my laptop, I reviewed the presentation for tomorrow's shareholders meeting one last time. The numbers were alarming. Under Marcus's leadership, Parker Industries had been losing money while maintaining a facade of success through creative accounting and the family's reputation. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "What game are you playing? You're not a shareholder." I chose not to respond, allowing him to wonder and spend a night perplexed about how his wife, whom he had dismissed and betrayed, could possibly pose a threat to his position. The truth was both straightforward and devastating. I had spent the past year acquiring shares through various shell companies and investment groups. Marcus, so confident in his role as CEO, hadn't noticed the shifting ownership patterns by the time he bestowed the beach house upon his mistress. I controlled enough shares to call for a vote of no confidence tomorrow. Marcus Parker would learn that the wife he underestimated had become his greatest threat. The beach house was merely the final insult, the last nudge. He needed to execute the plan I had meticulously crafted since uncovering his affair that night. As I prepared for it, I heard my phone buzzing repeatedly. It was likely Marcus finally piecing everything together. I turned it off, recalling my grandfather's words about the beach house. The best view comes after the hardest climb. Tomorrow I would demonstrate to Marcus just how high I'd climbed while he was oblivious. The morning of the shareholders' meeting dawned crisp and clear. I arrived at Parker Industries headquarters early, nodding to the security guards who recognized me only as the CEO's wife. Today would mark a change. The boardroom quickly filled, and I quietly observed Marcus as he worked the room, a master of handshakes and insincere laughter, projecting an illusion of control. Today, however, his smile appeared strained, his eyes darting to where I sat. Confusion and anger etched on his face. Sarah arrived last, donning a designer dress I recognized as own Marcus had purchased with company funds. She hesitated upon noticing me, but quickly regained her composure, taking a seat beside Marcus. Before we begin, Marcus announced, standing at the head of the table, I'd like to address some unusual circumstances. My wife seems to have confused her role here today. I stood, interrupting him. Actually, I think you're the one confused about roles. Marcus, Rel, would you please distribute the documents? As Rel passed out folders containing detailed evidence of Marcus's mismanagement, his affair with Sarah, and misuse of company funds, I provided proof of my majority shareholding through various investment groups. This is ridiculous, Marcus sputtered, flipping through the pages. These shares, this is impossible. I would have known, would you? I countered, moving to the front of the room. You were too busy buying beach houses for your mistress to notice that your wife was becoming your biggest shareholder. The room fell silent as board members read through the documents, their expressions shifting to grave concern. Sarah had gone pale, likely realizing that her recently sold shares had played a role in my acquisition strategy. As the majority shareholder, I declared I move for an immediate vote of no confidence in Marcus Parker's leadership and call for his removal as CEO. You can't do this, Marcus protested, but his voice lacked authority. This company is my family's legacy, he asserted, attempting to regain control. Was I corrected before you began? Treating it like your personal bank account. The SEC is very interested in how you've been running things, by the way. Those business trips with Sarah and the creative accounting, it's all documented one by one. Board members raised their hands in support of my motion. Marcus watched in horror as his power disintegrated. Sarah slipped out of the room. Her resignation would be on my desk by morning. Why, Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible because of the beach house. I laughed, the sound sharp in the tense silence. The beach house was merely the final straw. This is about every time you dismiss me, every moment you treated me as if I were too foolish to grasp real business while you were busy playing CEO and a sugar daddy. I was building something you couldn't see because you never bothered to look. The vote was unanimous as security arrived to escort Marcus from the building. It turned to address the board. Parker Industries has been operating under a facade of success for far too long. I've prepared a detailed restructuring plan that will restore this company to genuine profitability. My team will be reaching out to each department head to begin implementation immediately. Hours later, after the last board member had left, I sat in what had been Marcus's office. Now my phone buzzed with a text from the real estate attorney. The beach house transfer had been invalidated. Another buzz followed. The SEC wanted to schedule a formal interview with Marcus. I opened my grandfather's old photo album, one I kept in my desk there. He stood proudly in front of the beach house he had built with his own hands. Success isn't about what you own, he used to tell me, it's about what you build. I had built something significant, not just a successful consulting business that funded my takeover, but a strategy that exposed Marcus's weaknesses and salved Parker Industries from his mismanagement. My phone buzzed. Again, it was Marcus. I underestimated you. Yes, I typed back. You did. The beach house keys are in your office box. Don't forget. Turn in your company credentials. I closed the album and gazed out at the city skyline. Marcus had chosen this build because he relished looking down on everything. I decided to keep the office a reminder that the best view comes after the hardest climb. The next morning, I arrived early once again. Old habits die hard this time. As I walked through Parker Industries lobby, people greeted me with respect instead of polite dismissal. "Good morning, Miss Chun." The security guard smiled, using my maiden name, the name I had used to build my consulting business. The name I reclaim now that the divorce papers were failed. "Good morning, Tom," I replied, heading for the elevator. As I rode up to my office, I contemplated Marcus, likely waking up in some luxury hotel, finally grasping what he had lost, not just his position or his company, but someone who could have been a true partner had he chosen to see me as an equal. The beach house would require work. Sarah's renovations had stripped away much of its character, but that was acceptable, as my grandfather always said, the best things in life are those you rebuild yourself. I had a company to run, and this time I would ensure it was built on something far sturdier than facades and illusions. Ready to begin, Rel asked, meeting me at my office with the day's agenda. I smiled, thinking of all the people who had underestimated me over the years. "I've been ready for a long time. Let's build."